I didn't know about this Greg Doucette thing.
Greg Doucette, who is a two-faced, lying sociopath sucker. Print that.
So there was history before the debate?
Yeah, he made like at least one video, maybe two videos out of the ether talking about my like volume recommendations, because I think I was featured on Jeff Nippard's channel, and he was busy attacking Jeff Nippard all the time because the way Greg operates explicitly, and I do have text message confirmation of this, is he generally only punches up or down, but not really far down. Not because he's a conciliatory person, but because of clout. So he started the talking, and the debate happened because I was like, oh, he's talking, let's do the goddamn thing. I love face-to-face debate. He does seem like a genuine guy. He may be the least genuine person I've ever had the displeasure of interacting with.
I want to talk about our pal, Joel Seedman. Okay. You and I think, as far as I know, are the only people to have debated Joel Seedman. It's incredibly frustrating how it plagues almost every aspect of strength and conditioning, and not just for guys who want to be big and strong and regular dudes paying their taxes, but for athletes who want to optimize performance. No matter how much you say like, hey guys, a deadlift isn't bad for you inherently. It's you going beyond your capacity in most things that is going to cause you to be injured. But these charlatans, they kind of list off these exercises that they don't do. And I feel like it's because they have to mount an offensive. All this is bad. All of this is good. And then from here on out, we just make fun of the bad instead of kind of accepting things from all different places, because that wouldn't allow them to sell things.
That's their brand. If they're talking about nuance and it's all based on what the athlete needs, they ain't selling anything anymore, because nuance is like, I don't know, what am I even buying? Yeah. But if I can get a sense of, when I watch Joel Seedman videos, these movements are brilliant and there's a logic behind them. I'm not exactly sure what that logic is, but a few elements of it stood out to me. For example, most people have an intuitive and largely incorrect understanding that extreme ranges of motion are probabilistically more injurious than not extreme ranges of motion. So he's going to prey on that. And so when someone tells you, like him, don't squat deep, you kind of have this like, yeah. That's like someone telling you not to drive your car really fast. It's dangerous. We do that. That makes sense. A real quick story for you, Zach. You might appreciate this. Mr. Nick Shaw, the CEO of RP, him and I were training at a university gym together, literally like 20 years ago, and Nick was doing deep knee bends, as you weightlifting fellas call them, full squats. We only, like at the time and since, we only squat high bar like all the way. And so Nick did a set of 10 with whatever, 300 pounds, racked it, walked out of the rack. And a dude literally was like, hey man, are you like worried about like knee injuries and stuff with squatting? And Nick gives him the only response that just goes right to the heart of the matter. He goes, oh yeah, like, so why would it? The guy literally responds by making a V shape with his fingers. To replicate a knee. Yep. This is the knee anatomy, see? And his only response to Nick was nonverbal. And he goes, and he moves his hands. And Nick was like, go on. And the guy's like, I got nothing. He just knew that when the knee did the thing that it does, the bendy thing, isn't this bad? And I think he wanted Nick to fill in the rest, but there was no the rest to fill in. He just felt like when you go deep, something bad happens. You couldn't articulate it, but so he just felt like it. Oh yeah.
Joel has the rest. It's not correct, but he has the rest. That's why he's so successful. See, he's been able to build the rest and by utilizing jargon.
Yes.
So it's just, and so confusing jargon that I have the rest. Don't
eccentric,
worry about it.
Isometrics.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
Down and hold. Like, I don't, So
sure.
That's the thing. And he brought up some crazy study that I had never heard of. And I called him out on it. I was like, I would die to see this study. So there was a study that said, like, powerlifting and or weightlifting was actually one of the least injurious sports, or it was like, it was actually quite safe, these two sports.
There are a few studies that say that. Oh yeah.
Right. And he was like, no, they went back in and they opened it back up and they realized that they were wrong initially. And they actually found that it's one of the most injurious sports or something like that. And he's like, there was a study. I'm like, I have no idea. But what he ended up explaining to me was almost exactly my point. Was he was like, look, I developed this because I've seen a lot of guys squat low, heavy, and injure themselves. And I go, you gave me a variable. You just gave me a variable. If people are squatting too heavy, that is exceeding their capacity.
Yeah.
Which, Joel, guess what? I agree with you.
Yeah.
Don't exceed your capacity and don't exceed your capacity. But that's not what you said. And he just couldn't. We'd go back and forth. We'd go back and forth and back and forth. And he would then agree with me. And then I'd be like, hey, but you're now disagreeing with yourself. And then you'd go back, and it was like, okay, well.
To me, his air and debate seems to be one of just trying to buddy with you and get on the same page, and like everything's good. And it's slick, I'll give him that, but it is especially infuriating because what I want him to understand is that, no, you're a person who makes things up and makes money off of make-believe. And this is not a conversation in which we're going to be friends afterwards because you're a liar. And this is going to be a painful conversation for you. So it's one of those, like, you two wrestlers about to shake hands on the mat and the other one just goes, I'm good, man. I'm good. We're not tapping fists before a UFC fight. But if you come at it with that intensity, I had a debate back in the day on Omar Isuf's channel with Greg Doucette, who is a two-faced lying sociopath sucker. Print that. And he talked mad in his videos with his fake voice about how stupid I was and how wrong I was about volume or whatever it was about. And I was like, oh, this guy wants a shot at the title. So when we got face to face in a debate, I mirrored that energy. And he turned off his parrot voice and went straight into nice guy agreeable mode. And almost all the comments were like, oh my God, this Mike guy's a asshole. And this Greg guy just came to the conversation to try to learn. No, he didn't. He's trying to learn shit. He's like just totally two-faced. But that fake nice guy act that like, oh yeah, no, I'm just here to learn and I totally hear you is, I don't know if it's fake for Joel Seedman or if he's really that stupid, but it really is. It's like an interesting, great tactic. And so what I like to do, I altered my approach with Joel Seedman, the Greg Doucette thing. I was like, oh, God damn it. Like I fell hook, line, and sinker for that. With Joel Seedman, I was just doing the Socratic method where I was like, explain to me what your thing is that you think. And he would. And I go, okay, so some folks say that this part that you explained doesn't make any sense. Can you explain that? Because of these studies and the way I think about things. And he would just stutter and stumble and try to be like, well, I'm saying what you're saying. I was like, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. And to come back around, just like with you, you come back around and he tries to fiddle and he come back around, tries to fiddle. And then he looks like a fucking doofus. He looks nice, like a nice guy, but he looks like people are like, I don't even think he stands for anything at this point. Like when you have acceded all of your points away and you've basically said like, well, yeah, look, I totally see it from your perspective. And when you're like not defending your positions anymore, you clearly fucked up, but at least you don't seem mean about it. And so I think a lot of people that really works well on because they won't do the Socratic method. They'll get in there to try to be attack dogs. He'll be super nice and conciliatory. He'll say a couple of things that sound smart. You won't have all of the time and throughput to refute all of them. And then a lot of people walk away from that and be like, I don't know, man, this Joel guy seems like a nice guy, which is really funny that people even do that because it's one of those things where like, one of those revelations of how debate works is you're not debating the other person. You're debating to a crowd. And unfortunately, the thing with crowds is that a lot of people do not do the analysis of the actual structure of the debate to see who's more correct. They just see who has the best vibes.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if that Dr. Mike guy's smart or whatever, but he's kind of a cocksucker. Like, yes, this is not a discussion of who's a cocksucker or not. If you're the worst person in the world, you give Adolf Hitler, you give him a script for like the revealed truth of quantum mechanics, and you give the Mother Teresa a script that a child wrote about how quantum mechanics is stupid. Hitler's right. I'm sorry, Hitler's bad, but he's right. Most people don't, I was going to say think like that. They don't feel like that. So when nice guy charlatan shows up, a lot of people fall hook, line, and sinker again. Like that guy seemed really nice. Like we are not, listen, real talk. I simply do not know who Joel Seedman is in real life. Zach, he could be a totally decent guy that just straight up believes his own shit. He's just not that smart. He has some ideas that he saw people get injured, and he kind of had these ideas, and he's a little bit egotistical like all of us. He's kind of attached to them, and he maybe considered altering his ideas, but he really feels like maybe he's just a nice guy. We don't know that. It's unlikely, but maybe he's just a nice guy. And then he comes off as a nice guy, you come off as an asshole, and he, in a sense, wins that debate because he was a nice guy.
Well, I didn't know about this Greg Doucette thing. So there was history before the debate?
Yeah, he made like at least one video, maybe two videos out of the ether talking shit about my like volume recommendations, because I think I was featured on Jeff Nippard's channel, and he was busy attacking Jeff Nippard all the time because the way Greg operates explicitly, and I do have text message confirmation of this, is he generally only punches up or down, but not really far down. Not because he is a conciliatory person, but because of clout. He needs you to be a big deal on social media for him to actually, first of all, debate you at all, or second of all, talk about you. So he started the talking, and the debate happened because I was like, oh, he's talking, let's do the goddamn thing. I love face-to-face debate. Turns out Greg not a big fan of them and made pretty close to 0 cents in the debate, but he seemed like he was there to learn and listen. I seemed was very aggressive. I wanted to embarrass him intellectually because he's a moron and he's wrong a lot. And he came at me with the shit. What if I can just attack random people on the internet for sharing their kind thoughts? Oh my God, what the fuck would I ever do that for? He came at me first, and I came at him hard, but almost no one. There were like 5% of comments were like, get him, Mike, that stupid video he made. And other people be like, what video? Most people, that was the first video they saw. They saw Greg coming in as a nice guy. They saw me coming in as an asshole. And that's all they ever needed to hear. And I still see things every now and again in like YouTube comments, people are like, yeah, the Greg guy seems kind of weird. He does seem like a genuine guy. He may be the least genuine person I've ever had the displeasure of interacting with. Like, that's the reality. But yeah, he played it well, and kudos. That was great. He did great.
That's the biggest problem with social media and YouTube and all this space is no matter what, you can never understand the masses and what they've consumed. You totally. Almost like I have made, I think 70 technique videos on how many movements? 2.
My man.
The snatch and the clean and jerk. 70.
There's a lot of thinking going on about those 2 movements by a large fraction of the world.
And so I'm in 8 years on making YouTube on weightlifting. Mm-hmm. Do I just do the same shit again? Because I could. People comment and be like, hey, can you make a video on overhead squat or whatever?
Always
like, I've done 5.
They simply won't Google it. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing where you had every reason to be aggressive and be factual and want to win a debate with facts and logic. Throwback to 2018.
Before facts
destroys with
that's right.
Him with with facts
liberal
and logic.
Destroyed with logic. Oh yeah. God,
owned. To want to win a debate intellectually should never be punished. That's the purpose of it, right? But to get emotional tie-ins is actually how you win. You're debating towards the crowd. So for you to do that is totally right. But nobody knew that, or the massive amount of people didn't know that. Yeah. And so that's an incredibly a valid point. I think that has actually occurred to me a few times with charlatans.
Yeah. Dude, were you really pissed afterwards when you realized you fucking got fleeced basically, and you were like, God damn it. I didn't even know. It's like you had a title fight, but you were hitting the wall for an hour, and you're like, oh, you didn't show up. The guy won, and you're like, what the f***? I thought you guys said fight this wall. And you're like, nope, you fought the wrong object.
There was a mediator, and the mediator's my good friend. And just like I imagine Omar's your good friend.
This is with Joel Seedman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
One round, only one debate ever?
Yeah, only one.
Okay. I'm sure he doesn't want another one.
If we did it again, like the same would be said.
100%.
Like it would. There's no changing. So, but the part that kind of upset me was like I actually have friends and my friend who's a mediator who are. I don't know if they bought the emotional aspect of it, but they. Like I was like, he is very specifically wrong about this very specific thing that I'm pointing out right now.
Mhm.
And here's what he's like, I couldn't draw out a map of how this process worked any better than I did. And yet they still were kind of afraid to be like, yeah, I guess you're right about that. And I was like,
Mm,
you know what I mean? That's what
yeah.
bothered me, I think, the most. Um, and I think that kind of this sort of thing exists. It just does not stop. It's just so pervasive in the space. It's just crazy, dude.
It ends up seeming that when you're a little bit, maybe not even aggressive, but very straightforward, very analytical, very interlocutorial with a debate, you're really
Yeah,
trying to
baby.
like really get into some just underlying ideas. You almost seem like a harasser, like an attacker. And he seems like a just guy minding his own business. And he ends up being like, well, these are just my ideas. It's just what I think. And it's like, that's actually not true. It's not just what you think. It's what you tell people is the reality. It's not just in your head. You're spreading this on the internet and you happen to be wrong about it. You're not a passerby. You're not, oh God, this has nothing to do with me. You're the genesis of the problem. Now, notice that sounds again really, really confrontational and really perseverative and really incisive. And then it again paints you as the villain. But it's like, imagine, it's like when Batman like beats the shit out of a mobster who like stole and did unspeakable things for years, but also like had a couple dummy charities he would crank a couple million to every couple of years. Batman looks like the bad guy. And that's kind of the thing with Batman is he would go after people and he'd look like the bad guy. Oh my God, he beat that poor man half to death. Like that man is a terrible person. But now that he's bloodied and begging for his life on the sidewalk, Batman seems evil. That's a problem for Batman's PR. He didn't have to address because he would just disappear into the night. But when you have, you're known as Zach, the guy who knows weightlifting and the guy who gets after charlatans, some people make, oh, that guy's kind of a dick. Like, yes, but he didn't start this war. They did. And they play a soft war. They make it seem like they're on your side, but they're lying to you.
Oh
And maybe they
man.
don't even know they're lying, but they're lying and we're here to stop it. And it doesn't look nice. It's like if you arrive to a police scene and this poor lady's being stapled to the ground and handcuffed and she's begging for her life. A lot of people get their phones out and go, oh my God, oh my God, police abuse. What you didn't see right before that is her like throwing a brick out of her car window at the cops, screaming insane racial absurdities at the cops, trying to stab the cop, and he finally gets around and puts her on the ground. If you show up late, you go, oh my God, like this cop's evil. Like, but you don't know who that lady is, do you?
Yeah.
Well, she's just a lady. Oh, is she though? She's not. But when you come in and you know who Joel Seedman is, so we did our debate on Mark Bell's channel. A ton of his commentators, people that view and comment, very different people than people just view. A ton of them knew who Joel Seedman was. And when you know who Joel Seedman is and you know anything else about physiology or anatomy, you want him to burn. And they just couldn't get enough. They were like, Mike, get this guy. This is liberating. This idiot. Oh my God. But the people who come there for the first time, they're like, why is this mean man harassing this nice man who just has a nice way of training? And he trains
Yeah.
NFL athletes as if that's some kind of grandiose accomplishment.